Um, so what I really liked from the lesson 34, I could see peace instead of this. So it says in there, peace of mind is clearly an internal matter. It must begin with your own thoughts and then extend outward. It is from your peace of mind that a peaceful perception of the world arises. Note all thoughts casually, repeating the idea for today slowly as you watch them arise in your mind, and let each one go to be replaced by the next. The purpose of the lesson is to protect yourself from temptation throughout the day. If a specific form of temptation arises in your awareness, the exercise should take the form, I could see peace in this situation instead of what I now see in it. So I could see peace in my money situation instead of what I now see in it. I could see peace in my cat instead of what I now see in it. I could see peace in my mind or in my thinking instead of what I now see in it. I could see peace in my thoughts of what other people are thinking of me instead of what I now see in it. You see, so it can be used in different ways. If the inroads on your peace of mind take the form of more generalized adverse emotions such as depression, anxiety or worry, use the idea in its original form. I could see, so if it's like depression and there doesn't seem to be, it seems to be like a generalized depression or a generalized fear, or that would be called, I guess, anxiety, then it could be, I could see peace instead of this. But if it's specific thoughts, like money, like a thought could be, I won't have enough money, so I could see peace instead of this thought that I won't have enough money. Or I'm fearful the cat will make a mess, you see, that's a thought. So I could see peace instead of this thought that my cat's going to make a mess. Or so it can be used in a both specific and generalized way. And it's the lessons are, just very briefly, for me it's 365 lessons. I mean, each lesson is self-contained. If you're in the truth, it kind of makes sense. However, I just wanted to say briefly, it's like the core for me, I mean, at the end of the Course in Miracles it says you can throw the book away. If you've got what it's all about, you can throw away the book. And for me it's like, in the beginning, it's like I think I am a separate entity, which I call my ego, which is in separation from everything else. And it's like an independent decision maker, which is like in charge of actions and thoughts. And there seems to be a strong sense of identity. Like, if someone says something to me, it seems there's a me that seems to take it personally. And there seems to be an other that's threatening a me, you see. And as I start letting, and for me, how it was for me in my ego, it was like, it became very, very localized. I had to have a very, very strong feeling of location, and a very, very strong feeling, almost for me anyway, it was like a thought field. It was like there seemed to be a field of thinking, and there seemed to be a thought in there that this thinking is me. And so it was like I was this separate, independent entity from the whole universe. And I was having to struggle and make my way along in the universe. And other people were the same as what I had projected myself to be, like an independent physical body in this location, with this kind of central localized thinkingness, going into the future, going into the past, having thoughts like, what do you think of me? Is she thinking something of me? And like, oh my goodness, if I get to the sandwich shop before they close, I might be able to get my favorite sandwich. Or my speciality was to get to the supermarket to get at the right time to get the half-price sandwiches, you see. And then it'd be like, great, that thought would be like an obsession, and then there could be huge ups and downs, like the me that had such a massive goal that it needed to get some kind of huge reward, and then having the sense of me having this big, huge roller coaster, Does that person like me? They frowned at me, so it's like, oh my goodness. So it's like that sense of I-ness, the strong sense of I-ness and the strong sense of me as a separate identity that needs to fight and make its way in the universe and has a localized location and a very strong sort of mental chit-chat going on considerably. And as these, for me, through, I guess now, something like 14 or 15 years of spiritual work, that has, sometimes I'm in what I call it, with Mujis, or the observer, you see, something, there is something which is, it can be called the observer, the beingness, the timeless now, whatever you want to call it. It's like that sense of mentalized me-ness that seems to be an identity in a located space is not there. It's like there's more of a limitless thing in the now, and more of a connected, limitless thing. And when I say that, it might sound esoteric, but I really believe everyone's had those experiences where you forgot you have a body. It's just like limitless connection, and like everything is stunningly beautiful in the present moment. And there's a kind of an intuitive wonder and an intuitive direction to life. And that, for me, that is what I call the disappearance of that separate I trying to force its way. And when in that space, it's like, for me, it's like there is another power, you could say, or the universe, or the being in unity or in oneness, or being out of the little me that's trying to negotiate and think it's a separate thing from others and from. These are all intellectual ideas, but when you're in the experience, it's very, very, very simple. So that thing, of course, doesn't have the fear of the future, unless it picks up, there's an identified thought. So for me, as you're making progress, you have to release those thoughts through different mechanisms. And then I was sharing, I shared the story before, but and it's been my own experience. When out of those thoughts, everything takes care of itself. You see, and one is now it's that vibration, it's that peace, it's that oneness, it's that limitless beingness. That does a far better job, with the disappearance of I, than the little I, the me in my thinking, in my little physical body, thinking you're separate, and what shall I do tomorrow, and will I be able to pay that? That does a better job than the small, shrunk thing, you see. So. And the great thing is then you can be in that state of presence and peace or love or connection. But it's radical. Of course, the little me comes up with fear or has these. The Course calls them special thoughts. Muji calls them 5-star thoughts. So these special thoughts, which are it seems to be you can't let those thoughts go. You see, it's like, what about the money? What about the mess, you see? Or what about, no, I need to get my cake later on. I have to keep that thought in mind. Or I have to, so all of those thoughts. So that for me is a separate thing. But yeah, it brings up lots of special thoughts will come. If I let go of all these special thoughts, how will I survive? Or there's a tremendous fear coming in, or lack of trust, or surely there's so many special thoughts will come up. For me, I like. I think I'll talk a little bit about self-inquiry, but it's beautifully explained. Is a thing, of course, the identification with. You see, in the Course terms, I think the most simplistic way I'd say it. It's identification with form, because I often like to talk about that. That's the simplest essence I can get it down to. But I would say there's two gross forms, in my view, that hold and everything I say is just my view. So yeah. Two gross forms which comprise the ego. One is feelings, which is a type of form. Fear, for example, is a feeling. Guilt is a feeling. It's a type of form. I call it a type of form that there can be identification with. And then there is thought, which is another type, more discrete type of form. So for me, as one is releasing, or as there is a release in form and different types of form. One is entering that which is timeless. Time is a form that is tracked by the ego, as I see it. So we're losing the tracking of form and of thought and of time, and then it reveals something which for me is eternal. You know, I often share about the prayer of St. Francis. You know, he says it's in. I repeat this regularly because he's obviously a mystic. It's in dying that one is born to eternal life. And he said, what you're looking for is where you're looking from. I mean, anyone who says it's in dying that one is born to eternal life, and what you're looking for is where you're looking from, I mean, to me it's kind of obvious. This person is. So, and the startling thing as well for me is that the more there is identification with form, the more there is the experience of limited being. So any type of form, to the extent that there is, I mean, and I use the words interchangeably, identification, interest or meaning. I use those words interchangeably. You know, there's a projected meaning, or there's an interest, or there's an identification with different types of form. You know, identification or interest in a thought, identification or interest with fear, identification or interest with time, or the tracking of time. So all of these things. So for me, the more that is released, the more one is coming into experiencing or being, or recognizing is the better word, the recognition of that which was always here, which seemed to be seemingly obscured by a limited identity, or a limited beingnessness, or another way, I guess the Course describes it, of a sense of separation. You know, a sense of, you know, the Course talks about, you know, the fear and separation, and then there's the love and the timeless, and the beingness, or the limitlessness. Those don't make sense, but anyway. So, and for me as well, I've just had so many miracles from my own experience. You know, meeting a teacher of enlightenment, Muji, having a white light spiritual experience, coming back from that white light spiritual, having a gout attack in my foot. You know, I came in with kidney failure, horrific pain in my foot. It was an autumn day. I was just stuck in my body. Everything was grim. There was horrific pain in my feet. And the ego had obviously manufactured huge illness on the day, and was rampantly not wanting me to go and sit alone with the teacher of enlightenment. But he asked me, what am I? What am I beyond my thoughts? What is there beyond my thoughts? And I told him, I knew there was a witnesser, and he said, what's witnessing the witnesser? Who's behind the witnesser? And then there was the white light spiritual experience. So for me it was like, there's so much love, power and light, even beyond this dimension. Just to let go of the little claws the ego has on the thing. And when I came out of that experience, you know, there was no pain in the foot. Gone in a split second out of that. And also, when I left, I was in total bliss and ecstasy in that, as I came out of the white light spiritual experience. And there was no really proper awareness of the body. It was just a limitless joy. And as I went out, what happened was that it seemed like, and in retrospect, but I think this is quite important. In retrospect, it seemed like I was in a summer's day. Everything was absolutely spectacular. I was witnessing extreme beauty everywhere. I could just cry. There was just tears coming down my cheeks, just observing everything as I walked down the tube, and all the people in the tube. There was just tears because each one was so exquisite. The only thing was crying was happening. So, and then, so it's this thing of the levels of identification with form, the levels of identification with those things which pass, you know. And one of my own dear to my heart is self-inquiry. because which Muji teaches, which for me has really, for me it's a very fast way of chopping identification with everything that's being held within the ego. So for me, the ego is the source of separation, and there is link. Oh, yes.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Oh, it's not something I was thinking when you talked about this, and also before when we were saying this cancellation.
Yes.
Isn't it? See if I can express this. But isn't it more that there is always only one experience at any point, and there is only one experience, but then you attach to a part of that experience, and then if you have what you call a white light experience, it's still one experience. First you have one experience of pain in the foot, and the thought comes, and there is this, and there is seeing, there is hearing, there is thought, and then it changes to what you call another experience as blissful. At any point there is only one experience, and it's just that if you limit it to part of it, but it's always one whole experience. I was thinking when we were talking,
yes,
when you were talking, for example, over there, and I thought, okay, now she is talking, and I was thinking what I was saying, and I thought, doesn't matter who is saying it. It's just one thing. If you are saying it, you're saying it. It's just the same experience coming out. What if it's this person saying it or this person doing it? The thing is, we only say, this is me. That's the separation, isn't saying, this is me. This is where this thought is mine, that's yours. Now this person is saying her words, and those are my words. But there's nobody's words.
That's right.
It's the same person. There's everybody's words. I mean, it's my thoughts, it's not my thoughts.
That's right.
There are thoughts, and then there are hearing, and then I hear words from that point, or this point. It doesn't matter. I mean, that's the thing. I think it's not about somewhere else. Or so if you have what you call a white light experience, that's also an experience.
Yes.
That is coming from wherever it comes from, and to isn't that what it is? The separation is when you say that is mine, this is not mine, this is my thing, and that's your. And when you see, I mean, what a relief if you think that. That house is not out there. It's just an experience. So something, seeing something, and hearing something, and there's no. It's just one experience. In any moment, there's only one experience of whatever that is, of a vision, of a hearing, of a thought, of a feeling, and that changes constantly. And that's it, isn't it? Isn't that what it is? I mean, that's what it is, isn't it?
I think we can discuss things from an intellectual point of view. I think that's one way of doing it, and there's the one of having experience rather than conceptualizing.
There is always. I mean, we always have an experience. You cannot not have an experience. You always have an experience.
Well, what we can do is we can inquire into the nature of what is I. Okay.
Okay.
We can discover through inquiry into what is the nature of I that is having experience. This is different than making concepts about what it is. So, I think this is more productive than having a viewpoint of what is experience and what is not experience, and what is a real experience and what is not a real experience. That is to look into what is the I that thinks there is an I here, having experiences. So as I was sort of saying, so this for me is more revolutionary than thoughts. You see, inquiring, not really intellectualizing, but inquiring as to what is this I that thinks it's an I that is having thoughts, that is having experiences. And Muji, I mean, to give a metaphor, but these are just metaphors, even though for me it's going beyond the metaphors. It's like, of all the things that, to discover what I am, who am I? What am I? What am I? Let's try and discover the nature of an I that thinks it has existence. So, I like to give the metaphor, and this is my own metaphor, and it's not perfect metaphor, it's like having an eyeball. Yes, if you have an eyeball that can see objects in front of it. So, if I'm an eyeball here and I can see a plant over there, then am I the plant, or am I that which sees the plant? You see? Now, I think it's kind of obvious, I won't ask the question, but the more true me is the observer of the object out there. The plant out there is an object.
I would say you both.
Okay, that's okay. So
because that's only one experience. So you're both the plant, or you're the one who's seeing the plant. You're the one who's thinking about the whole thing and having ideas about it. That's
I would say okay, okay,
say.
okay, good. So so the plant is an object, and all thoughts, I would say, are also objects. So every thought is observed. There is an observer of all thoughts, which is not thought. So that as well. So, because a thought is something that passes.
It's the seen from the seer. The seer is not the seen.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right, yeah. Thank you. Ah. So, yes, that's right. So a thought is seen, and a thought is passing. So a thought is, I mean, I use the metaphor, it's like an object which is seen or observed to pass. Just like a plant can be seen there or not seen there. But there is that which observes or sees the thing. Also, something is observes time passing, but it's not time, that which observes time passing. So anything, yeah?
What you said earlier about the feelings and the thoughts, I
Yes.
thought that was quite interesting, because in combination to this, it's not just sometimes observing the thoughts or the people or situation from a nice peaceful field, you know, but sometimes in the activity of life, you know, there might be people that you observe who there may be creating feelings of, or within of, like it's a bit off, like, you know, the conversation might create feelings of anxiety or something. So it's more than just observing the people, but also observing the feelings and the thoughts that come up in that as well. So like observing everything.
You keep asking what is observing until there is nothing left to ask the question. So, yes?
What got me is that there's only that's happening. So there's only this. So there's only this happening, and then maybe the thought wants to come in. Well, this isn't what I like. This is not what I wanted. Yeah. And then I think the master sometimes say they're constantly vigilant. Moody talks about it too, doesn't he? Sorry. Yeah.
Do you mean like the labels or the stories that we attach?
Yeah, the mind wants to attach. Yeah.
Because you've got that, and then you've got the actual, as you say, happening. You know, so actually, it's just observing the happening. You know.
It's not that you. One of the other things I played with as well is that I stopped judging myself for slipping into a way of being. So if I was being annoyed or frustrated in some way, I stopped beating myself up. I'm back in my mind. And then when I found that I didn't need to worry about that judgment, because that judgment's only judging itself for doing what it's doing, I felt freer. So it moved me to the next space where I could be more present to the happening.
That's a big.
He can't speak because he's so choked up. Because I think it reminds him of the day that he let himself. That's just so powerful. When you let this yourself go completely, you're not attached to who you were anymore. And so there's a power in that, and what comes up for me is my resistance to letting that go. It's like I said earlier, it's an old friend, something that you've believed in all your life, and to let it go, who knows? I don't know. Do I know?
No, it's powerful. Like a lot of fear and letting go. You know. Just the strong identification with that.
Find out who the fear is for.
Yeah.
Find out what, sorry?
We know
Find
where the fear
out,
is
find out,
for.
find out who has the fear and what is observing the one who has the fear, and if there's anyone there. See.
Oh, really grateful for your presence. Just feeling quite a lot.
Feeling quite a lot.
Yes.
Would you like to do some self-inquiry?
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so there's feelings going on.
Yeah, there has been. I don't know if there is right now.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's bring it to now.
Okay.
So right now,
Yeah.
is there a you that's here right now?
There's something.
Okay, so this something now, is it a feeling? Is it a thought? What is here that is a thing?
It's an awareness.
Okay, so this awareness, yeah, is it located? Has it got a location? Has it got, is it like an awareness, has it got a size? Has it got a texture?
Shifts.
Okay, so how is it shifting? Is it like, what is shifting? Is this shifting thing you? I mean, okay, there's something here that's shifting or changing, yes?
Well, interestingly, sometimes it feels like it's me, and sometimes it feels like it's just open, or even like us, even like we are
Okay.
the same
Okay,
awareness.
so there is a kind of a oneness or sameness, and then there's a shift to a thing. Is that right? So this flux is happening. There's just oneness, and then there's a thingness. Okay, so there's something here. So this shifting in and out, there is an observer of this shifting that's going in and out. So it's suddenly there's openness and oneness, and then suddenly there is a location of awareness. So there is that which is here, which is observing this shifting happening. So can you go, let this shifting happen? It's okay. But there is something here that is observing the shifting, which is not this shifting. Can you go to that? Okay. Now, is there a thingness? Are you the thingness, or are you the shifting?
Maybe just an awareness.
Okay. Is the awareness limited?
It doesn't have to be.
Okay. So in this moment, is the awareness limited, or is it a thought?
I think it feels like I'm thinking if I try to answer it.
Okay. So okay, let's say thinking is happening. There is that which is observing. Can you go to, so some thoughts are happening. So there's identification with these thoughts. So can you go to that which is observing? So let the thoughts happen. There's thoughts happening, yeah? Thoughts are happening. Can you go, so there is that. So these thoughts are happening. There is the observer of the thoughts. So, okay, so the thoughts are happening and there is observation of the thoughts. Are these thoughts you right now? No. So there's not a problem. If thoughts are happening, there is that which is observing the thoughts. Okay, so these thoughts are not you, because there's an observer. Is that clear? Yeah, okay. So now, in this moment, what are you? Are you located somewhere? Are you a thing in this moment?
You don't have to be.
Okay, I don't have to be. So now that could either be a thought, yeah, that's a thought. Okay, so so this thought, let this thought go. Okay, okay, or I don't have to be. Can you see that something is observing this thought, which is not this thought? I don't have to be. Something hooked into that thought. Okay, so now, in this moment, are you? Is there any thought? Are you a thing? Are you a thought? Are you a location?
Just an awareness.
Is the awareness restricted or limited in any way?
It's open.
Okay, so it's not limited. Is there any problem in this moment? Okay.
It's just an unfolding.
Yes. But is it an unfolding for a thing?
Just of whatever.
Yes.
it
Yeah.
is.
Just yes. Good.
It always feels like that when I come here, when I speak to you. And other times as well, sometimes.
Yeah.
But not all the time.
It's only because of identification with thought or form. When there's strong identification or projected meaning given to anything, then a limited sense of self exists in that moment. And as that identification is it becomes more limitless. Sorry. Or eventually there is no self, a seeming separate self in separation to anything else. That evaporates as well. Well, you could say it's an unfolding or what is.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we do hear the cancelling of beliefs, and many of you know, for me it's just another form of what we've just done, another way of letting thoughts go. And lesson 14 is God did not create, for example, lesson 14, God did not create cancer, so it is not real. God did not create war, so it is not real. Now, for me, the great power of holding thoughts in mind and how they can manifest is the thing of Hawkins. Hawkins had about 20 illnesses, and he did the Course in Miracles. He also went to enlightened teachers, and he gave the modified form of I cancel my belief in cancer. I'm an infinite being subject only to what I hold in mind. We can do the Course version, which is God did not create cancer, so it's not real. But it could be God did not create poverty, so it is not real. Or God did not create financial insecurity. God did not create horrible people, so they're not real. So it doesn't really matter whether it's an internal or an external thing. And all of his illnesses left just by letting the thoughts go about the illnesses. And since I had, at the time, I had kidney failure, I had gout and asthma, I was very interested in letting those thoughts, there's a me that has kidney failure, there's a me that has gout in my feet, there's a me that has asthma. So, and he ran a group in America with people with cancer, AIDS, myasthenia gravis, and they did the lessons of the Course, and all their illnesses left as well. So it was so profound. And so I did the lessons, and I did the two forms. Either God did not create, for example, in my instance, God did not create kidney failure, so it is not real, or I cancel my belief in kidney failure, I'm an infinite being, subject only to what I hold in mind. For me, that thing of, which I really, really love, because you could say in the now, or in that which is beyond separation, beyond a separate identity, it's a infinite or a limitless being in the now, and it's free of all identification with limiting thoughts. And so, if it's free of all identification or hooking in to limiting thoughts, then your limited self, which is the source of fear and separation, is not there. And if those thoughts go, then, and as I did that, now, today, I had a transplant, a miracle happened, I had a transplant, and no longer on a dialysis machine. I was discharged from the asthma clinic, and I haven't had a gout attack for several years now. They stopped the medication. So those, for me, are just like, we were having a discussion last week, but I'm not a quantum physicist, but the Heisenberg principle, the observer has a profound effect. But for me, the observer is the doorway that consciousness is, in fact, at the root. So, and as your limited eye goes, then, and you return to the natural beingness or the now, then, things, that takes care of things. So illness has disappeared. So that's the way I've experienced miracles. It can be done with both any kind of thought, fear of cancel my belief in loneliness. I'm an infinite being subject only to what I hold in mind. God did not create loneliness. God did not create messy cats, so they're not real. God did not create dependency, so it's not real. God did not create, for me, God did not even create a me that can have fear. God didn't create a me in separation. God did not create a me that tracks time, or is in time, or is in separation. God did not create a me that is limited in any way, or in bondage in any way. So it can be used in many different ways. So I normally do either, and I also found very, very quickly, like my mother had a redeemer in her feet, and I did. God did not create a redeemer in my mother's leg. I just had the intuition. When you start getting into the now or the limitless being, you start to get intuitions that just pop into your head. It's not from the ego identity. It's not from this thinking me that's trying to solve all the problems and is worried about the future. It just comes from. It's like out of nowhere. Trying to say God did not create a redeemer from us. So I did, and within a couple of days. The swelling was going down on my mother's leg. Within a week, the swelling had gone. So when you're out of this limited me that's trying to orchestrate the whole universe and be a separate thing, then intuitions come. So when you let go, the miracles happen. Also, very quickly, I wanted to share that the whole basis of the Course in Miracles, which is the opposite to the ego, is that if you let go of your ego identity, you'll recognize the truth. The ego believes its identity and its huge roller coaster of fear, the future, the past, a feeling of separation in accordance to other separations. My world is I'm separate here and all of you guys are separate over there. I'm a thinking thing over here and you guys are all thinking things. All this stuff starts to disappear and is replaced. So the great fear of the ego for me is that the ego is the source of life, and actually it's too scary to let go, because that which is, if I let go, there'll be nothing there, or there'll be non-existence, or where will the fun be out of looking forward to munching the cakes or buying the half-price sandwiches tomorrow? So all of those addictions and all those fears and all those polarities that create. So my experience has been, of course, it's the most wonderful experience to be free of that limitation. And the most miraculous life can unfold. It's, for me, the true life can unfold. You know, that which is out of fear. And this whole thing of the ego, which is the roller coaster. And actually, the roller coaster, the thing is, like, if you're holding those fear-based thoughts, actually, fearful things tend to happen. You know, when you're in the now or the present, or when the limitless sense is gone, that's when it seems like, you know, there's a unity. There's something like miracles happen. It's like you're given what you need just by letting go. So it's the most miraculous thing. It's like my own experience is the more I've released, the more amazing life has become. You know, it's like being in the ego is like just being in a clouded fog. And coming out of that clouded fog, it's like the glory. It's like that's the word. It's for me the ego. The extent of ego identification is anti-life. It's like a dead cloud of thinkingness and fear and misery and projections of separation from others and what others are thinking of it. It's the most miserable experience. The more identified with the ego, the more you can let go, the more clarity, the more presence, the more intuitive, the more miracles, the more synchronicities, the greater the wonder of life. And for me, the whole thing with, you know, enlightenment or the Course in Miracles is to connect to something which is eternally present. I mean, I'm using words, but it's like to be anchored in a peace, in a timelessness, in a beingness, and to have the recognition that that is my truth. And I'm saying it linguistically, of course nothing says that linguistically, but that is the greatest source of security, strength, love, direction, intuitiveness. And rather than to be this flimsy little thinky body thing that is like caught in the most fearful, horrific world of the future and the past and things going wrong and projecting out onto everyone this kind of separated world of and it's so terrified of losing its view of everything. But yeah, so I just wanted to say that, and with that we'll start. And so I do the cancelling of beliefs, or, you know, I cancel my belief in, it can be anything. It could be my illnesses, or it could be personality, it could be fear around money, it could be fear-based thoughts around a cat, or it could be around what other people think of me. And so it could be, I cancel my belief, like I'll use my example, but you can use it on any thought or any belief or any scenario, financial, person, or what other people think of you, what your identity is. So I cancel my belief in kidney failure, I'm infinite being subject only to what I hold in mind. I could do that, or I could do, God did not create kidney failure, so it is not real. I usually just, because I had so many illnesses, I often do, you don't have to do this, but I visualize the body just being healthy and full of energy in the present and unlimited.